have this analogy, this visual image in my mind of you realize you find this thing of Bitcoin. It's this small light spark, and then as you learn more about this light spark, also the background kind of darkens because you start to realize how fucked up the system really is. Like with the banking system, fractional reserve banking. I mean, the money, it's not real. I mean, that's dark. That's not. And then you learn more about Bitcoin. It's this bright light starts to shine brighter as you get sucked into this revolutionary movement, really. And then you learn more about the world, and you start to learn about the flow of information. If this is a scam, then what else is a scam?
The network is robust in its unconstructed simplicity. Satoshi Nakamoto. Welcome back to What is Your Bitcoin Story podcast, where we dive into the unique journey of individuals in the Bitcoin community. I'm your host, Gigi, and today we have an amazing guest joining us, Rob from BitSaga. Rob's Bitcoin story is one for the books, as he took a massive crypto detour early on, starting out as a payment gateway. However, when Stripe decided to block his bank account, Rob's project went viral. And he since has shifted his focus to BTC-only hardware and multi-sig concierge services. Join us as we explore Rob's fascinating journey and the lessons he's learned along the way. So sit back, relax, and let's hear Rob's Bitcoin story. Rob, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Gigi. Thanks for inviting me. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure to have a fellow Bitcoin comrade on the show, or as we're known now as paranoid crypto anarchists. We got to support each other.
Absolutely. Yes, we are.
Perfect. So Rob, let's hit it off as we always do on the show. Take us back to your start of your Bitcoin rabbit hole journey. Where does it start?
It starts relatively early on, I guess, but as with many, and I guess that's the boring part, I took indeed a massive detour in crypto, as many of us did, hitting the 2017
Guilty
cycle.
Here as well. Guilty here as well. You're not the only one.
When we weren't surrounded by the bright orange light of the maximalists showing us the path. I learned it the very, very hard way, what it's all about. I remember with colleagues, shitcoining, I don't have to. I went deep down the rabbit hole. I'm guilty of smart contracts on Ethereum, leveraged yield farming on Avalanche. Yeah, there's some degenerates.
Some juicy ICOs, I presume, as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Airdrops coming in from absolutely everywhere. Coins sitting in your wallet. You have no idea what's going on, and degenerate Discord chats and sniping trades everywhere, and just greed, just filthy greed, and being proud about it. Yeah, that was.
It sounds like a juicy 2017. Rob, you've taken me back to 2017 right there.
Yeah, so that was that whole detour down in the trenches, took it all the way, and mostly made a lot of mistakes. And just what you do is when you first encounter it, your head turns by the price movement, and the greed guides you to all the fundamentals. And then I remember most of my colleagues, when then the bear market hits, not sticking along. And I'm just being bitten by this thing. Because I guess I had this precursor of being interested in philosophy, but also the Zeitgeist movement. Not sure if it rings a bell with perhaps some of your audience, Peter Joseph.
I personally have seen the Zeitgeist documentary, which changed my outlook to a lot of things. That was pre-Bitcoin. But that was pre-Bitcoin.
So that's a little bit of a seed in your mind. If you had that planted, that could root you for, okay, this is more than just me, but it took a while for that plant to grow. Jacques Fresco, amazing human being.
Yeah.
And then, just kept on digging white papers after white papers, and just every coin and being totally flabbergasted and really grasped by, this is the great next thing. Yeah, it took me years. It took me absolutely years. And then finally clicking, okay, Bitcoin, it's slow. It uses a lot of energy. And then when the Lightning Network clicked, I was like, then why are we actually using all of these altcoins? And that's what, for me, when a major thing clicked in, okay, yeah, this could really be just about Bitcoin. And then it never ended in going down that rabbit hole, right? And then you keep digging, and then the speed of your digging increases because it becomes this flywheel of, oh, this is really something big. And you get magnetized by it. And then at some point, more things start clicking, and you're like, I got to do something with this. This is huge. If you're, I guess not young, if you've ever been young and stupid and ambitious and you want to change the world, and then you grow up and you're like, okay, I'm really stupid. I ain't going to change the world. And now you're like, okay, if I'm ever going to have some impact on this, whatever this is how it's going to be. Not with flying cars or not even AI. For me, it's really Bitcoin. So, and that's when a drive and a fire ignited in, okay, doing something with this. And then making a lot of mistakes, assumptions, a payment gateway, as you mentioned, thinking, okay, people want to pay with this. Well, no, people don't want to pay with this. There's no demand for a payment gateway. It's all Bitcoiners and maximalists, and there's no merchant adoption anywhere. But still, it's still so ridiculously early. There's absolutely no demand for a payment gateway. I mean, there's big boys doing it, and they're doing it beautifully, and I can't compete with that. They got great software. So, where do you see demand? Well, yeah, just the basics. Just the basics about Bitcoin. Even yesterday, I did this presentation. It's so basic. I mean, if you've been in this space for over a decade, and then you have to explain it, and you have to wipe everything you know and start from the absolute basic. And that's where there is demand for it. Okay, the basics. Where do I buy it? How do I store it? So hardware wallets.
First steps.
And then the absolute first step. That's where there's demand, and it's ever increasing. So that's where the Bitcoin hardware branch of BitSaga came to be. And then the questions along that, how do I use it properly? Because, scanning QR codes for me now, really, right? And for everyone, but there's a massive amount of demand for, okay, some guidance, doing it properly. The basic people can figure out, but once you're looking at doing significant amounts, then you're want to avoid the single point of failure, and then the whole new branch of multisig explored. And there's a huge opportunity there because it has this stigma of complexity. And I guess I'm mentioning a lot of things now but that's, I guess, where the story took me, and I'm at right now.
And what year was
hardware.
That was, I guess that was somewhere during the pandemic, right? When everybody was stuck at home, right? The BitSaga was born, or that was pre-pandemic.
That was pandemic era. I did start a fiat startup also in that era. That's still
crazy
going.
Time.
Absolutely crazy time. Somewhere along those lines, it was really very fluid. At some point, it was still called Saga Crypto. So, in the tail end of not even being a maxi. Because I was, okay, got to do something with this. This is really great. It's going to change the world. But then what was going to change the world was called Ethereum. So, wanting to do something with it, got started pretty early on, but yeah, you keep clicking, you keep getting driven more by this. So it's been very fluid and ever changing, and every week it seems to change. Dear Lord, this space moves fast, and especially the things that BitSaga has been experiencing. I mean, even this week I did 2 different presentations. Now, today there's a podcast. 2 weeks ago I got completely unbanked. Stripe happened at the beginning of this year. It's been wild, absolutely bonkers, absolutely. Seeing the thing blow up around you, it's ever increasing. I can't imagine where BitSaga is going to be in a year from now, because at this rate, it's absurd. Really, it's.
I was going to say it's only getting started. I mean, Rob, like things are only starting to lift over. I know,
absolutely,
and not just this bull market, but there's many bull markets in front. And just zooming out for a second, looking at the macro, like Bitcoin as a protocol has been only around for 15 years. just 15 years. And we're talking about the sixth largest asset class in the world. It's like the fifth, like it beats nearly every fiat currency. It's only been around for 15 years. Imagine the next 5, 10, next 15 years, where we're going to go. I always tell people we are still so early. Forget looking at the price, no matter if it's 60, 70, even when we hit that 100K, which I think a lot of people have been waiting for a while, which already thought would be in 100K parameters. But to me, it doesn't really matter. To me, actually, this price currently, and by the way, Rob, just to let you know, I don't go too much into price on this podcast. I always say one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. But since we're kind of unraveling this, I just want to say that I don't mind that the price is where it is, because, we're getting sats at a discount. I don't want to be buying sats. Well, I will be buying sats at 100, 200, 300K, but it's going to be so much less. It's going to be this nostalgia. Do you remember the times when we bought Bitcoin when it was 58K for like 6 months?
We're going to be
we'll
looking
see.
back on these times. Absolutely. It's going to be crazy too. There's going to be aspects of today that, we realize that the price is relatively ridiculously low today. But I think the most interesting part is even going to be like aspects of the community right now. And it's still so really small. You can get into touch with a lot of people that we're going to appreciate and be nostalgic about even more than just the price. I'd love to get that cheap price back. Definitely everyone's going to think that. But I think, Bitcoin Twitter, it's such a awful shitstorm and a beautiful place at the same time to be. And it's just
organized chaos.
Organized chaos, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's addictive, and opportunities and business and everything. And I think that's underrated, I guess, in the moment. Some of the beautiful things, because some of the most ugliest things are also happening on X. But I think the pricing. I think we also have to stop and realize that the beautiful beauty in our smallness at this stage.
For sure. And just my final kind of input on the price aspect, like no matter what price you get in a Bitcoin, you think it's expensive, like you missed the boat. I had several guests that were buying Bitcoin at, what, $100, $200. And they were like, wow, like, why am I spending so much money on some, digital code like this? I'm just crazy. And then, we saw what happened afterwards. So even people today, like thinking, wow, like it's, 60, 70K for a Bitcoin, like that's crazy. But then in a matter of a few years, when it's, $500,000 and then $1 million, you're like, like that 60K actually didn't sound too bad, like it's, I always tell people, to the beginners, when they say, when's the good, Gigi, what's a good time to buy Bitcoin? I tell them there's two best times to buy Bitcoin. The first one was yesterday, and the second one's today.
Absolutely.
Forget speculating. There is no buying the dip and selling at the top. And you never sell. Like, this is one thing that people, it's hard to formulate, especially people that are kind of from an investment background. They always have a enter exit strategy. Bitcoin's just a one-way strategy. It's just, you get in and you hodl. You don't get cold feet when there's black swan events and when everybody's shitting and Bitcoin dies for the 1,000. No, you just hodl it. You just keep on stacking and stacking and stacking, which is actually, as simple as the formula is, it's super hard. Like when you're seeing prices go significantly high and then they drop like 80%, you have to have a big strong stomach to swallow that, and keep on going. But I guess with time in the game, you get to love that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the lesson that price action teaches us, being when you first enter, whenever that is, and then just spending enough time in the market that it gets more expensive or raises in price, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have been buying these stupid things. What was I doing back then? What you were just saying. I think that's a lesson that is going to keep teaching us over and over again. And then until we get beaten with this low time preference thing, it's going to really keep teaching us that, I think. And then we're going to see this, I dare to hope, massive cultural shift in low time preference thinking. It's not just a meme. And we can see in the price. And I think that's going to be one of the greater things it's going to bring us, even like the huge mentality shift in wanting the future yeah, the low time preference, that's going to be huge.
I couldn't agree more. On the long time preference, I really see Bitcoin making this world a better place by more people adopting a low time preference, where we get out of this stupid brainwashed consumerism mindset of buying the latest thing and just buying and buying and buying and having like all this, like China, the mass
Exactly.
factory of the world, building so much crap. Yeah, there's some good stuff that comes out, but mostly like 70 to probably 85%, it's useless junk that is just being produced for e-commerce, people to be selling you stuff that's just going to be collecting dust. And as a result of it, some people are profiteering, but the world, like, we're sucking all this energy and dinosaur juice out to make these plastic useless toys, which nobody needs. And on a Bitcoin standard, you don't have that, because you think very thoroughly and you think twice before you make any purchase, especially when you denominate things in sats. You're like, like, do I really need this new iPhone? Like, my iPhone's pretty good. Like, I don't really need this extra button on the side, or whatever the new gimmick is. And Bitcoin really does that. I don't think there's any other technology that fundamentally, as you said, Rob, culturally rewires your brain to consuming less but higher quality things that will last you longer. And as a result, that saves our planet. So, the secret to the EU is not drinking your cold drinks through a paper straw. It's about considering what you purchase and, doing it the ethic way instead of being demanded what you can, what you can't. But yeah, I thoroughly agree with you on that one. So I guess I want to jump into your first, would you want to call it unbanking story or bank
Yeah,
freezing
sure. I guess
story?
the call.
The frozen moment. How and when did that happen? And what was going through your mind?
Yeah, it might not really qualify, I guess, as an unbanking, but it was crippling. So what happened in a detailed, simple sense, Stripe as a payment gateway, it was working. And then through a random update of the plugin, it triggered some check in their system. And they're like, nah, we don't like you anymore. We shut you down. And it just stopped working. And
No warning, no nothing.
I
It just cut off.
it stopped working, and I had to inform through. I saw the plugin not working anymore, no information, nothing given, and I reached out to support. Like, I mean, what's going on? And you have a hunch, right? I mean, you kind of know, you're afraid that that's happening, that you're being shut down, and then through mail, you get this generic non-answer. Like, I'm not sure what was in there anymore, but no information, like letters and words, but really, I mean, nothing like of substance to why. It's just according to our agreements, to our something vague legal words, extremely broad. And I kept trying again, and then mail never got an answer. But then on X, I mean, I can try, right? And just sent them a message on X, and then there's this meme that there's this, the intern is on X, right? And the intern of Stripe on X, he, I guess, not so much leaked, but at the moment I was like, oh, you're telling me something you're not supposed to tell me, because you're like explicitly asking me to remove Bitcoin miners off the website, and then you'll be a payment gateway for me for BitSaga. I'm like, am I getting this right? Are you kidding me? Yeah, that's not happening. Hell no. And I was fired up completely about that. Yeah, I'm the kind of guy, I don't shy away from the big words. That's why, I guess, why it totally exploded. I just threw all the big words in their face, like, you don't comply with my usage guidelines. I mean, this is freedom technology. You're on the wrong side of history, and that's, I guess, great. I mean, the biggest part of why I wasn't aware of it, and then afterwards, I was like, yeah, this is really good. I mean, people should know about
People
this.
are
And
pumping it.
yeah, I mean, and then I posted it, and then a screenshot of it, and I didn't think much of it because, I mean, I had like 600 followers then, not even 400. I'm not sure. And it started going, and it was absolutely crazy. And friends were pinging me like, "Yo, Rob, I mean, have you seen this? These huge accounts are picking up on you," and it kept going. It was absolutely, and then big names started reaching out through messages. Daniel Batten, this banking woman in USA. I mean, whoa, this is totally. I mean, wait, what? Because indeed the big accounts were Stripe, big name, is blackmailing this small Bitcoin business into. I mean, it's forcing it down, right? It's a power play, and that's the whole core of Bitcoin, right? So everyone got riled up, and I was in the middle of it, and it was absolutely wild to be in the middle. It was beautiful, beautiful. It was even emotional, absolutely even emotional, because I mean, we're in this game to do that, right? To be this freedom technology, to be this
to provoke change,
rock, to provoke change, to be this rock in the flow, and to disrupt, and then it's happening to you, and that was so beautiful, and to be that voice, and then to get that support from the entire community, that was absolutely beautiful. That was just beautiful. And then it also fell down, and today you can't pay with Stripe anymore. So that they won that battle, but the war's still going.
But at the same time, I mean, like the marketing that it did for BitSaga, like there's no amount of money that you could have funneled into ads to promote BitSaga. It was like
crazy.
epic.
It was absolutely crazy. I posted a chart of later. Did BitSaga just meme itself into existence? Because you see the visitor count just going vertical. I couldn't imagine. It was crazy. Yeah, absolutely. And then it kind of kept going. I got the hang of it now. Even now, the next account is going. It's growing significantly. It's beautiful. Absolutely. Using the big words, it really resonates with people. I mean, sometimes you get frowned upon then, but I mean, truly, I really mean them. I mean, this is what it's all about. We use them in when we're talking right now about them, but every time and just grasping in detailed things that are happening, like a small unbanking, deplatforming, de-risking, whatever is going on. That's not what's going on. Really, what's going on is this power play of a centralized system. Every time it's this system. It's a symptom of the system that is rotten to its core. And we all know it, and we just gotta every time point at what it's really about, I think, and that really resonates. And even with the unbanking and with the utter and complete unbanking, that's the next story. It's the same thing. Yeah, you gotta point out what it's really about, because it's absolutely wild. Stripe, I can, in some sense, I can understand that they're ignorant in the news story of my banks, my personal accounts, my business accounts, my how do you say the savings account and the spending account. Not sure how you say.
Checking account.
Checking account. All of them are blocked. One transaction at one bank. They
triggered everything.
Everything. I can't get cash out of the wall. Nothing. On my way, it just happened on my way to Bitcoin Amsterdam, the conference, and I realized I wanted to jump into a gas station, get something. I can't pay for something to get something to eat, to get something to drink.
Crazy.
I'm utterly and completely crippled. It is then that you realize how much the control they have. It is absolutely total. It is total. Even me as a total Bitcoin max. I mean, it's Bitcoin it's everywhere for me where it's possible, right? But it's crazy the amount of power they have. It's absolutely crazy. I feel like a Russian dissident, like a Chinese guy they're gonna throw away you never seen.
Like a drug cartel kingpin who's been blocked.
Up until today, this morning I got a message confirmation without any sort of communication. I have no reason, no trigger, no nothing. This is now 2 weeks and 3 days. Nothing, zilch, nada.
But
just
these are brick and mortar
banked me.
banks, right? You can
These are brick and mortar banks. I went to the bank. Of course I did.
Okay. And
I mean, I was thinking somebody should grab a camera and film me while I make some
were
noise
you
like this
wearing
brick and
your
mortar
Node
bank
Runners?
because
Were you wearing
yeah,
your
with the no runner shirt.
Node Runners shirt when going to the bank?
You're not unbanking me.
And what did they say?
Unbanking the unbankable. What you think? No, they couldn't say. They know nothing. They can't say
Wow.
anything. They know nothing. It's
So
absolutely
what
crazy.
happens? What happens now, Rob? Since they haven't communicated anything, it's been, as you said, 3 weeks and
Haven't
counting.
communicated anything. It was beautiful to see Ludmila Kozlowska, privacy advocate, mention BitSaga in this context on the Bitcoin Amsterdam main stage, where they were talking about developers' privacy, protecting the rights, EU over-regulating everything to death, especially the innovative technologies. So that was a beautiful thing also. But now what happens, I mean, I got alternative flows working, digital banks. So that's the beautiful thing today, that we do have in this digital age many different options, Revolut and 26, Wise and whatnot. Also different other, brick and mortar banks, multiple redundancies working in place, but it's crippling, absolutely. The savings of personal business, it's all locked and tied completely.
Shit.
It's bonkers. It's completely, it's unreal. It's like in a movie, and I'm living it.
It's
Totally crazy.
you are like literally living like, if God forbid, but we have these draconian CBDCs come in, how just at one switch, like bam, like everything's gone, and but you don't even need CBDCs to experience that because you are the living example of that. Like, and it
Exactly
must be
what's
insane.
happening. It's absolutely insane, and it's again, this is in some sense it's I don't say utterly irrelevant, but it's just this small inkling symptom of, again, just like with Stripe, this rotten to its core system of power plays, and the fact that it's possible for someone's property, someone's freedom to transact, to be completely taken away. I mean, we look down on Barrios and the Louis XIV. I mean, the crazy power plays of history, but today is no difference because of the power that flows with money and the central institutions that totally control it, and thus everyone with fiat currency. And we're all still on that standard, whether we like it or not. We're all hoping for the Bitcoin standard, but today, everyone, I mean, a few guys who are getting paid in Bitcoin completely, but it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's real. It's dystopian. It's real. It's not a meme. It's not China, Russia. It's here. It's in Europe. It's crazy.
And these old rules were put into place to protect us, to make sure, we don't get mugged, yet they're doing the mugging, and they're put in place to prevent terrorism, even though they are the biggest terrorists financially, what they're doing to people, because I'm sure, Rob, you're not the only one who's experiencing this. And it's
Definitely.
at the same time, it's scary how we just walked into this blatantly. Like, I have a feeling this all started 2 decades ago. So 9/11, with the whole Twin Towers, showdown coming down, and then this whole fight on terrorism, and, starting, declaring everything, and then these AML laws, and, it's all these directives. It's crazy. Nobody asked any questions. Everybody's just like, yay, like, we're going to be protected. This is, and then GDPR came in, which GDPR it's an oxymoron. It's data protection, yet you need to give everything to third-party companies that you have no idea where they're storing your data, but it's for your own protection. Okay, you have the right to tell them to delete it, but how am I going to verify that they actually deleted that? And who are they in the first hand to do this? This whole KYC, it's just insane. And proof of funds and banking updates every year. How much money, Mr. Gigi, are you expecting to get this year? Well, I'm expecting $1 million, but is it gonna come? Is it not gonna come? I don't know. Like, what you mean? I don't have a crystal ball. How much money am I expecting? And it's just, or like a transaction over. I remember it was 10,000 euro transactions were flagged, and then 5,000 euro transactions are flagged. And recently, personally, with Revolut, you mentioned Revolut, I was doing some P2P trades with Huddle Huddle. Shout out to Huddle Huddle. And I did, maybe it was my fault, but I did 2,000 euro transactions in a matter of like half an hour. And the second one, bam, it was flagged. And I had to basically provide all this information. Why am I sending? Am I pressured into
You
sending
dirty
money?
criminal.
My God,
$2,000
for
transactions?
2,000 euros? I'm not doing
What
20 or like 200,000 euros. And like I had to spend
were you
literally, Rob,
thinking?
I had to spend about 15 minutes answering questions like, why am I sending? Do I know this person? And to a certain extent, I had to bullshit them because, you know, I said it was a friend. And then it's like, does your friend provide your service? And I was like, yeah, he provided, because really he did provide me service. It was an OTC deal. But then they were like, give us the website of your friend. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, it's not a website. Like, what else do you want? And then after answering all this stuff, get this, Rob, I had to watch about 6, 7 short videos, which you can't skip, where they're telling you about scams and online fraud. And after that, they said they froze the amount for 3 hours. And after 3 hours, in case I change my mind, and you know, I believe it's a risky transfer, I can cancel it. After 3 hours, the money was unlocked. And I was like, fucking hell, for like 2,000 euros, like it's insane. Like I mean, it's just utter BS. I actually myself, I couldn't take it anymore. Like I actually left Europe earlier this year in April. Actually moved to one of the countries that you mentioned, which are highly sanctioned, which is Russia, because my wife is Russian. So I live on a full Bitcoin standard. But here, where you would think, you know, things are so bad, they don't have these laws of proof of funds. You never have to prove nothing, unless it's some like absorbent, like we're talking hundreds of thousands of euros. You never have to prove anything to anyone because it's none of their business. It's your own money. And like, it's crazy how like Europe, this advanced, you know, part of the world, and protector of your funds, is basically telling you to prove everything where it's none of their business, you know, like, and it's just scary where it's going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a good feeling. That's why personally, I packed up my bags and kissed it. Au revoir, I'm out of here. I'll come for holidays, but I'm not staying there and, you know, playing these cabal games because they're insane. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin, by the way. To finish my rant, you can literally just sell everything for Bitcoin, have your 12 words in your brain or on steel plates or whatever it is, and just move. And, you know, you don't have to answer nothing. So I guess that's the good part, but it's just scary. And you know, future generations, I feel sorry that they have to go through all these burdens where it's, as you said, Rob, going back to your point, it's your own private property. And the fact that we need to answer to them to have access to our funds is just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And I want to mention or shout out, I guess, because I mean the BitSaga story really exploded, right? 2 times actually. I mean the Stripe one really went say haywire, but it's simply because I use the big words that the BitSaga story twice now got picked up. But if there's anything that has become indeed very clear, as you said, and I want to explicitly mention that I'm not the only one. Especially with Stripe being, I mean, you crypto Bitcoin related businesses being deplatformed by Stripe. I mean, dozens, absolutely. It's systemic. And then the unbanking currently, that does seem pretty exorbitant, pretty out of this world for now. But yeah, indeed, it's crazy. It's systemic. You hear a lot of these stories, and we live under the notion of free market and free flow and capitalism, and we know it's definitely not. I mean, the central bank is a Das Kapital, the main book from Karl Marx idea. It's crazy, and it's just been taken for granted. And you mentioning that it started, I guess it's really hard to pinpoint a starting point because central
I can go
banks.
way behind. I was just
The months of
mentioning like a
the months
point
of
to me
Jekyll
personally
Island, right?
when I saw like
Yeah,
things like really escalating fast regarding like surveillance.
definitely escalating, changing then, but then central banks, the monster of Jekyll Island, the gold standard. I mean, where didn't it start? And I guess it's going to be a continuous fight. I'm not sure. This could be a thought exercise, but are we ever going to perhaps on a full Bitcoin standard? Do we have full, complete freedom? What's the next frontier then?
That's the $1 million, or shall I say 1 million Satoshi question. But I am a believer of yes, we do. My father always told me growing up, he said, no empire, son, lasts forever. And this American empire that started off just over 100 years ago with the Federal Reserve coming around and US dollar being, the global reserve currency, that game is collapsing. There is no saving it. And if, some people that have studied the Great Fall of Rome, it took like over 100 years for like people to realize that Rome is crumbling. It wasn't like a sudden, like, bam, one event happened and it's done. These takes a long time. But I think in this case, the fall of the US dollar and this whole global cabal is going to be sped up much faster because we have the internet today. There is no more relying peer-to-peer conversations, going to the library to read books. And now, as you had in your case, Rob, with the power of social media and X and other platforms, you can really, speak out what's happening to you. And people are free to do their own research. Now, are they going to do their own research is another whole topic. Whoever is curious and whoever is sick of the system has the most powerful tool at their fingertips, and it costs them essentially nothing, their monthly bill for having Wi-Fi. And, I really think that sooner or later we're going to see the collapse of the dollar. I don't think we're going to just suddenly go into a Bitcoin standard. And I think the dark parties which are controlling the world, non-conspiracy talk here, but some higher families control the majority of media and banking and everything, right? They are not going to let go of their game of monopoly just like that. They're going to fight till the end. But I think that fight is inevitable to lose at some point, because going back to the internet, everybody's free to do their own research. But now, this has been going on for centuries, hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, going back to, to knights and royal kingdoms. But now it's the first time ever in history that we have an alternative parallel route for holding our funds, for holding our property, which is Bitcoin, which had never happened before. It will never happen again. There is no second Bitcoin, truly a protocol that is controlled by all of us, where, no matter how powerful or influential you are, you cannot change the code. And I guess the 51% attack was tried and tested in the block size wars in 2017, 18, and that didn't succeed. And they had like the majority, if ever they were going to take it down and kind of influence it, that was the time. Now, 7 years later, we're in a whole different ballgame, and it would economically be impossible. But, never say never. But, I'm a true believer that, on the other hand, we don't have to wait to exit the system. We can just build, as Brian the Mint wrote an excellent book. I don't know if you read it, Rob, or whoever's listening, the Bitcoin parallel system or story. Basically, there's parallel in the title. And we went into extensive details with Brian on the show, how you can build, as you are building, Rob, and other Bitcoiners are building their own parallel economy through Bitcoin. May that be selling a service, may that be selling products, and, kind of not waiting for the system to collapse, but just building your own side highway system, which makes you and your business prosper. So what's your take on that, Rob?
Yeah, you said a couple of things I want to pick up on. Firstly, the free flow of information and the velocity of civilization, that it's really different today, obviously, and that things are moving really fast, can change really quickly. I mean, there's this quote where decades, nothing happens for decades, and then decades happen in hours. It can get really dicey, crazy, really quick. And on the free flow of information, I think it's scarily fragile. Your ISP has a lot of power. Our banks have a lot of power. You can get shut down easily. It's a similar flick of a switch. I wanted to mention that we do have that freedom now, the flow of information. But is it really free if it can get shut down at the flick of a switch? Just like in the fiat system now of being bankable to be unbankable, and you can send money everywhere until you can't. Are you then really free? There is now a free flow of information. I mean, you see where I'm getting at? It's just a question and being advocate of the devil, right? That is it really free if the flow can be flicked on? We see the free flow of information being let's
manipulated.
say, yeah, but didn't want to go there. At least nudged. I mean, in manufactured consent and these things, it's a very real thing. And then something else I wanted to pick up on Bitcoin. And you mentioned the block size war. That was a battle that was fought and won beautifully. And then there's this meme of and then they fight you face. I'm kind of afraid, and I just want to throw these things out there to provoke thought, right? I might not necessarily just to entertain, right? Because if we're just ranting about get your Bitcoin off exchanges, I mean, it's just an echo level, right? So that disclaimer, but I'm afraid that, but then they fight you face, it hasn't even begun. The powers that be, as you mentioned, they've got a whole lot of tricks up their sleeves. I mean, what we're currently seeing from regulations, that's nothing. I mean, what they could be doing is really crazy. Bitcoin could be turned into a CBDC overnight. And with new regulations, OFAC compliant blocks, it's clear as day how that would be. I'm not saying it's going to, but the current system has all the incentives to do exactly that. And then it's going to be a question of, I'm afraid, how far are you willing to take this? We have a very easy and comfortable life. And right now, I feel the cripple of being unbanked. It's stress inducing, obviously. And I've got a 34-week pregnant wife at home.
Oof.
I can miss this shit like a toothache, right? So we will be confronted, I'm afraid, with a lot more. You're here for the number go up, or are you really here what you're saying you're here for? Because I guess your public audience is mostly Bitcoiners and not about the number go up. But I mean, we're gonna be tested on that statement, and there's a war to be fought, I think. So yes, this is not going to be easy.
I think the war started actually, Rob. I don't think we're waiting for the fighters phase. Look at just what happened in the last week or so with the whole ECB paper saying how Bitcoin. I'm sure you read it, right? The one that was on Twitter.
It's a weak throw, right? I mean, that's not fine. That's not everything. True. They got. You know what they got up their sleeve? I mean, the interest rates and the money printing. That's the classical that's a classical ballpark game they're playing. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying necessarily that that's what I'm utterly convinced of, but
could be.
I think that it could get a whole lot worse. Definitely, and we need to be wary of that. We can't take it for granted. That's what I want to say. It's not here, the future. We have to pull it towards us and fight for it. Else it's not going to happen. It really isn't. Satoshi didn't do it. Someone else would have, but it's Bitcoin is us. We really have to. I guess it's more a call to action, really, for everyone to just do whatever they feel like doing, and because it's really, really necessary. That I absolutely do believe. I mean, right? To fix the money, fix the world. It means very real. So
of course,
guess that mostly.
And just to add to that, Rob, which was beautifully said, is the future that we have tomorrow depends on the actions that we take today. So instead of just sitting behind screens and enjoying Bitcoin, Twitter, and Nostr and everything else, go out and take that action and lead by example. Words are nice, but words are very hollow, and words don't change the world by the actions that people take. And everybody can tackle the smallest thing. And I'd like to jump back and kind of give my 2 cents on what you said. At the same time, I also think these great powers have been in power for so long that, when you're in power for so long, the power gets to your head. And that quote, when you fly too close to the sun, your wings burn. I'm not saying they're dumb. They're far off dumb, but there's only so much they can push until the truth is revealed and there's utter global chaos. And I think we're so close to that point that who knows, they need to play their cards very smartly, just as we need to play our cards very smartly. And I don't know who wins out of it. All I'm saying is do try and figure out the safest way. And we all living in different parts of the world have different problems, issues that we're tackling, and different priorities in life. Like you're about to bring in a child into the world. There's people like myself who is raising two beautiful daughters in this chaotic world. There's other people that are about to send their kids to the other side of the world for studies. Like everyone has different priorities, and make sure to focus on how to preserve the well-being of your family and your loved ones around you by doing the right thing, by leading by example. And I truly believe in the butterfly effect. The quote, when a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the earth, on a tornado turns up on the other side. It really trickles down. And one thing, going back to the beginning of this conversation, which you said, the beautiful thing about supporting each other in this space, Bitcoiners are always looking out for each other. So every year, as we have more and more people join the movement or the clan or whatever you want to call it, the religion of Satoshi, we are getting stronger by the numbers. For sure, most of us that truly believe in the Bitcoin, it's not just a numbers go up game. It's about changing the world and leaving it better than we found it. And maybe this fight will go on for hundreds of years. Who knows? Past the last Satoshi being mined in 2140, who knows? At the end of the day, time flies so fast, as I'm sure you're realizing, Rob. And like another quote is, this episode is a bombshell of quotes, but let's carry on the train. We underestimate. We overestimate what we can do, in a month, but we underestimate what we can do in a year, right? So if we just focus every day doing something good and improving that 1% through your personal things, through your careers, and people should really not be afraid to take the leap of faith, because you have this one life. Even though, I do believe to a certain extent this is all a game. Life is a game. You need to play the game right, but this game has one life. There is no, oh, you die and you spawn back in the same place and it's GTA, like let's go for it again. You have one life, so make the most of it, and enjoy to the max, and be a nice person. And I think Bitcoin really drives people to be nicer. And I think we are finding ourselves in society where it's so full of hatred, which of course is manipulated through media and everything else that's happening, but also this like selfishness, right? And Bitcoin does the opposite. It's like Bitcoin's this mirror, which you look into it, and the more you study, you're like, like I've got this flaw and that flaw, and I need to fix that. And suddenly it takes you up to a higher being. So I'm very faithful. I don't want to be pessimistic. I'm a half glass full guy than a half empty glass guy. But yeah, it's always good to have both sides of the coin. But I guess what happens tomorrow, my last part is, depends on what you do today.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess I want to touch back on what you're saying with making the world a better place and realizing what's going on with the media. And I have this analogy, this visual image in my mind of, you realize, you find this thing of Bitcoin. It's this small light spark, and then as you learn more about this light spark, also the background kind of darkens, because you start to realize how fucked up the system really is. Like with the banking system, fractional reserve banking, the money, it's not real. I mean, that's dark. That's not. And then you learn more about Bitcoin. It's this bright light starts to shine brighter as you get sucked into this revolutionary movement.
Vortex.
And then you learn more about the world, and you started to learn about the flow of information. If this is a scam, then what else is a scam? And let's not derail the conversation, but I mean, there's a lot of things that appears to be a scam. So
true.
And that's this crazy dynamic that I'm seeing, that we really have to hold on to this bright orange light and not let it die in this. Yeah, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but I mean, there's a background of the meaning of fix the money, fix the world. I mean, that the money, and then the background being the world. We really have to cling on to it, and it's all the hope we got. It's the most beautiful, strong force currently you can see. I mean, you can see AI robots changing society completely, but these are also very, I mean, beautiful and dystopian dynamics at play. And Bitcoin actually also could be both beautiful and dystopian if you turn it into a CBDC and total control. I mean, that's not what we want, right? And that's not too far-fetched, I think, if you look at the current dynamics at play. So it's an interesting dynamic of hope and realization of how much we need that hope.
And to bring up another point, communication, the free speech and the flow of communication between each other. Going back to what we just saw a couple of months ago in Brazil, banning X, and suddenly people, can't use it anymore. And yeah, you could use it through VPNs, but it just shows you how like overnight things can change. And I would want to bring up this point, which I've been, evangelizing for since summer, since BTC Prague, of the power of Nostr, right? And people are saying like, what's the point of Nostr? Where you actually, like Bitcoin, you own your own money, your hard money. And with Nostr, you actually own your notes, your actual input messages that you broadcast across the world. And I think the more restrictions and surveillance and kind of cramping down on Bitcoin, communication and broadcasting of content, may that be news articles, podcasts, videos, tutorials, educational stuff. I think Nostr will play a much bigger role, and that's going to be a much harder thing to shut down because anybody can spin up a relay in a matter of minutes. What's your take on Nostr and kind of the freedom of free speech?
It's totally true. I mean, everyone who's got the slightest grasp of Nostr realizes the fundamental parallels in the free flow of money and the free flow of information. But I want to throw in, just to play devil's advocate
Let's
again.
go. I love it.
I'm a software engineer. I've got a technical background.
Yeah.
I like to play around with code, and I've been sitting on an idea, peer-to-peer, basically, and I built a proof of concept on Nostr native, but I'm an EU citizen. I'm subject to all the regulations at play. And look what has already happened to me. I'm scared. I cannot deploy this thing. It's somewhere. I can't make noise about this. Hey guys, hey Gigi, you want to check out this cool peer-to-peer thing I built on Nostr? Because I'm not allowed to. And this is real. I'm not making this up. I built the proof of concept. It's working. People could start playing around with it, and it could see this network adoption. I'm not saying it will. What I'm trying to grasp here is that the innovation, and especially this is a very Europe effect, it really is being not shut down, but they're on the brakes.
Highly restricted.
Big time. Highly restricted. And this thing now it's not being used. I don't want to jump into the details too much. But so it's a beautiful thing, but we have to, can't take it for granted. Decentralized networks, they don't have a single point of failure, but yeah, I'm afraid if we take these things, both Bitcoin and Nostr, for granted, we might get blindsided. And these are the most important, strongest forces we have to precious these things. So that's just a little bit of a counter story I want to throw in there, because I mean, that's my reality. I can't put this thing out there. So the fight is at least going on. If it hasn't started now, I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but yeah, these dynamics, I mean, we need everyone to play the game. Yeah.
Well, I agree. It depends on where you reside and what nation citizen you are. Could lead you into very dark times, which you don't want to go any deeper than you already are personally. With all the banking issues that you're having, you don't want to be releasing more kerosene on the fire. I totally respect that. But then going back to the Nostr protocol, it's only been around for 3 years, right? Since
Yeah.
Fiat Jaff released it. And how much stuff have we seen being built on it from all sorts of clients, all sorts of features. I mean, it started off initially kind of like more or less as a decentralized clone to Twitter, but now, with the Zap stream, with Nostr Nest, with so many things and I'm sure there's so many things that are being released every day that we just don't know of. It's only a matter of time until, we pick it up, and it's going so fast. And, I guess some individuals, like in your case, it's very, how should I put it, delicate to release things which could bring you into other hotter waters. But there's a lot of self-sovereign individuals around the world releasing other things which could, for the better of humanity, help out. And let's see how it involves. Like, I like the fact that we had the positive and devil's advocate conversation, because there's no point of having an episode where it's all like daisies and we made it. It's
Yeah. Nostr is awesome, obviously, especially also the machine-machine communication where you can have true dApps, not just human decentralized network. I mean, it's beautiful, absolutely, obviously. Yeah, definitely.
But there's still way to go. And once again, going back to what I just previously said, if you want to see something different, if you want to build a future, build on it today. And, on Nostr, there's so many things you need to build.
Exactly.
Maybe not as highly controversial things as certain P2P products, but there's, so many things you can do. And I really urge people to go out, set up their account, play around. And then to just give a quick comparison, like, I personally much prefer scrolling my Nostr feed than my X feed. There's much less violence and chaos and just hatred. I don't know. I don't think it's just my X feed that's filled with, especially now with coming up to the elections, it's all like this political bullshit, which I don't give two shits, sorry for my French, about what's happening with the politics in the US. Like, I have no interest. I'm there for my Bitcoin stuff and Bitcoin content and information. And I'm seeing like what Kamala said or what Trump said. Like, who cares, And on Nostr, there's not a single thing I see about elections or like these ridiculous wars that are happening around the world and like all this poverty for like, I know it's the truth, but like, you don't need to be bombarded by it. You don't need to be programmed. And that's what I much prefer it. It's much more pure.
Yeah, I think what is being grasped there by pure, which I really like you using that word, is in an ever increasing digitizing world, the absence of algorithm. Nowadays, I mean, it's not just on social networks, it really is everywhere as we get more personalized stuff. And that's the beautiful thing also about the decentralized networks. And we could see them applied across different, not just in money and information, and then everything will keep being increasingly digitized. But indeed, to keep it pure and not have it continuously skewed with a monetary incentive is best achieved through the absence of algorithm, I believe. And you feel that beautifully on Nostr every day. Indeed, every message you scroll. It's not just the absence of the current political agenda or whatever that may be. Yeah, I think because also the supply of that is currently really low. Right? There's a lot of demand for pure social content in the case of Nostr, and then there's a lot of demand, and that makes it really precious, that pureness, that absence of algorithm. And I think when other social media, I mean, Instagram, it's really big also, right? When people there start to, I mean, people living off of it, legitimately a lot of it. A lot of people making like, or even just a little bit of a side hustle on it.
Yeah.
And when they also start to feel like, I mean, this algorithm, it really has, it changes continuously. It really has a lot of control over me. I don't want that. They might not necessarily get the equivalent of completely unbanked, but the equivalent of being, disincentivized by this fresh algorithm and that pureness, I think, or the demand for free and open flow of communication, I think we could also hopefully see from the classical social networks into this pure, beautiful, free, truly free flow of information. Because as you mentioned, Brazil, eventually he gave in. He paid the fine. and
Did I saw?
they were, yeah, it was. I mean, you can make a lot of noise, but I mean, yeah, and there's a lot of dynamics at play, but yeah, that happened. So, and there's a lot of things that happened, fights that are being played. Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden. I mean, Snowden got away, but the samurai guys. I
Yeah,
mean,
still ongoing. Crazy.
there's a lot of that's what I'm saying with we can't take this for granted. And there's beautiful dynamics at play, and we really have to be active on Bitcoin. Use it, orange pill, and indeed on Nostr. I should be on Nostr more. I'm advocating Nostr, not that active.
Well, it's never too late to start. At least, if anything, I motivated you just a teat 2% to be more on Nostr. We would love to
Definitely.
have
I
some
mean, I'm
more
already
Rob
convinced, but
input.
indeed, it's definitely.
But yeah, so I guess we've covered a lot of interesting topics, even though the main focus of the episode was the real face of modern banking, how they could just turn on a switch and the lights go out literally overnight. But to kind of conclude and wrap up this episode, which I do with all guests, Rob, what is one piece of advice, or it doesn't have to be one, just generally, what is some advice that you would give to newcomers who are only starting their Bitcoin journey today? What is some piece of advice you would want to share with them?
It's a good one. I mean, there's a lot to share here, right? But I mean, what it boils down to, and even a presentation that I gave yesterday, it was an orange peeling basic, no precursor knowledge required. So really try to hammer on the basic principles. And there's also a lot of them. I don't want to be name dropping here, but what it all boils down to in one word, if you want to simplify it extremely, you can you try to grasp it in one word, and if it's has to be simplified in one word, it's freedom. That's what it's all about, freedom. I mean, also the Bitcoin protocol, I mean, it could be called something else. It could work completely differently. It just works now with the 21 million. There's some fancy number game going on. Also in Nostr, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's very, very young, but it's all about freedom. That's what it's about. And we're a little bit, there's this quote where the devil has tricked the world into believing he wasn't real or something like that. That also perhaps resonates here. And whatever is going on or whatever tickles your pickle, it's about freedom. That's
Nice.
what it all boils down to, for me at least. If you just keep zooming out. And that's a great method to approach anything. You zoom out and then the local noise dissipates. And if you keep zooming out, you always, for me at least, come back to freedom. That's what it's all about. Maximizing freedom for everyone. Yeah.
Rob,
keep your eye on the target.
Rob said like a true freedom maximalist.
That's it. That's right. Definitely.
Amazing. Well, Rob, where can we send our listeners to follow you? I guess we talked a lot about it, but I guess your X account, right? And your website, or what is the best place for listeners to follow you and get in touch and get some hardware and consultancy from?
Yeah, definitely the X account is very active, BitSaga Rob, and then bitsaga.be, the website, Bitcoin hardware, Bitcoin consultancy. And I like to say that neither the hardware nor the consultancy is the main product that we sell. It's about the peace of mind at the end of the road. And that might be this hardware wallet or this piece of guidance that you need, because everyone's really different. We do see the same questions coming back in, but that peace of mind, because I used to be really worried about my Bitcoin. Not because I have a lot. I lost it all in a boating accident. I don't know about you.
Me too.
But
it's been a long summer.
Yeah. But yeah, the peace of mind. I mean, the with the freedom comes great responsibility, right? To drop in another quote at the end here by Uncle Ben. And you really want to keep that responsibility, nurture it with peace of mind, not have to worry about it. And that's what the goal is with BitSaga. Yeah, the website. That's a place to be.
Amazing. Well, there you heard it, guys. If you ever need any Bitcoin help and any guidance and peace of mind to sleep like a baby at night, Rob is always more than happy to help you out. And once again, Rob, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show today. Really best of luck with your ongoing banking drama relationship. I hope that gets resolved. If there's any way how I can help, please feel free to reach out. And of course, the biggest thing
Appreciate
coming
it.
up, best of luck with your newborn coming into this world
Yes,
very, very soon, to you and your better half. Yeah, we look forward to
thanks.
having you back in the future, because our Bitcoin journeys are only getting started. As we said at the beginning, like there's a lot more things and a lot more sauce and action to come along. So we'd love to have you back in the future for a chat to carry on from where we left over. So Rob, once again, thanks so much.
Most certainly. Thanks for having me on. We will continue this. Definitely. Thank you, Gigi.